Okay, so we're going to talk about the L word. And it's not love, it's leadership, which would require some love, but it is leadership. And the reason we're talking about this today is one, I happened to stumble across John Maxwell has an amazing podcast. It's a leadership podcast. And I listened to this particular podcast that was about basically, can you lead everyone, or is everyone leadable? And it got me thinking back to the very beginning when I started Plexus. I felt like I could sign up anyone. I really did. I felt like I could get anyone to order. I was having great results. I had so much excitement about Plexus. Like, you'd be crazy to say no to me. Like, I don't think I let you say no to me. So I had signed up probably 30. At the time, we signed people up as wholesale ambassadors. And so I had about 30 people using the products. I was about 2 months in, but not a single person had shared with anyone. And it took someone else pointing out to me, if you don't teach other people to carry the torch, you ain't getting nowhere, sister. And I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to get people to do what I'm doing? And it was a kind of this rude awakening about leadership. What does it look like? And then as I started to evolve, I realized it's not just getting people to share. Oh my goodness, I have to create leaders. And if that's the case, I guess I better become one myself. And so then I started investing in growing my leadership skills, learning how to be a leader. I've noticed over the time that I've been with Plexus, I kind of flip-flop. I'll go from a really heavy focus on my personal business, and then I'll shift to a heavy focus on leadership. Sometimes I get it right, and I've got both going on at the same time, and the angels are singing, and it's amazing and beautiful. But a lot of times it's just lopsided. So I thought this would be helpful for all of us to listen to. Once we listen to it, if you have other work to do, by the way, you can always mute. It's about a 12 to 13-minute podcast that you can use the worksheet to go with it. And then I'd like just to have a little discussion. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Have you had any leadership lessons that you'd be willing to share? Has anything happened to you that you think, wow, that really was a pivotal moment where I learned a leadership lesson? And I'll tell you this last thing before we listen. When I first got started and I really started to think, I'm going to take this all the way to the top. I remember seeing the graphic that showed me what happens if I share with 3 and they share with 3. I was like, I think I could do this. I am going to do this. One of the most influential people in our town, she trusted me. She got started on the products. And in the middle of all this, she had adopted 3 children from, I think it was Haiti. 3 children from Haiti, found out she was pregnant with her 4th biological while she was in Haiti. Her house was on the market. So all this stuff was happening in her life. She got started on the products. She had a certified panic attack, like for real, like hello, clinical panic attack. Well, for her, she had just started on these products that I had told her about. And it was confusing to her. Was this because I started on these products, or is it my life circumstance? Ultimately, she realized she'd had a panic attack, but that didn't help the first day or two, because this woman had so much influence and told everybody, I don't know what's going on. And it was scary for me. I thought I should just throw the towel in. I cannot believe this is happening. Does God not want me to do this? It was really, really tough. But I also knew I had to stand by what I believed to be true, keep my head held high. I was not going to say anything disparaging. I wasn't going to be defensive. I had to put leadership into action. And because I handled it that way, I believe I came out through that unscathed, and people still trusted me. She realized it wasn't that. It was her crazy life, and she needed more support. All that to say, leadership always comes in handy. So this will be a really fun thing for us to listen to together. Use the worksheet. Let me go ahead and get it open. And if you're ever at a loss for what to do for personal growth and development, just grab John Maxwell's leadershippodcast.com. He has all of the leadership podcasts on there, and you can listen, and they all have a resource that go with it, so you can print it off. I'm going to go ahead and press play, and we're going to get started.
Lesson came from is I was interviewed by Leadership Magazine, which is the largest leadership magazine in circulation-wise that I know of. I was interviewed by them to do a cover story on leadership, of which one of the questions they asked me was, can you lead everyone? That was the question. And so it got me to thinking, got my legal pad out, and I said, okay, let me think this thing through. Can I lead everything? Because you know, one of my favorite quotes is everything rises and falls on leadership. And in my beginning of leadership, I was very naive, and I thought in the beginning of my leadership that I could lead everyone. I thought everybody will follow because I've got a great dream and I know where I'm going and I've got confidence. And I mean, why wouldn't they just fall in line and all of us go up the mountain together? I mean, why stay at the base camp? Why not go to the top? That's what I thought. But of course, I was very naive. And when I finally got in the process of leading, I realized that there were some people that you either don't lead or you can't lead. So let me give you, and I break this down into two kinds of limitations. There are what I call people limitations, and there are what I call personal limitations. So let's deal with the people limitations first. There are 4 of those, and then we'll deal with the personal limitations, which are 5 of those, and I'll bring you through. And one of my goals is, as I take you through them, is for you to begin to identify which ones you are strong in and which ones you are weak in, not for me, but for yourself, to help you to be a better leader. Okay, let's go. Let's talk about people limitations first. Number 1. The first limitation that I believe I have with people is this: I cannot lead people longer than they are willing to follow. And beside that, put the word relationships. In other words, I cannot lead people longer than they are willing to follow. And because I realize that, the only way that I could ever keep people following me for a long time is because I have developed strong relationships with them. And I put as a quote in your notes, eventually, relationships determine the size and the length of leadership. Now, that's a great thought. Let it mellow for you a little bit. Just keep it alive in your mind. You see, for a while in leadership, what happens is you get into the door with what I call charisma, but you can't keep charisma boiling enough to keep people following long enough. Does that make sense? So it's got to go to something of more substance. It's got to go to something that is more solid, something that's more foundational. So you start off with charisma, you start off with newness, you start off with passion, you start off with a dream. All those things are great starters, but they won't keep people following you for a long period of time. That's why I put in your notes, the strongest relationships equal the longest relationships. Now, let me talk to you about some potential problems. Hang on to this next thought. The weakest person in the relationship controls that relationship. Now, I don't know if you got that. I don't know if you understand that, but I'm here to tell you, I could go home now and say, I gave you all that you need tonight. Because until you and I understand that statement, because I'm going to talk to you about 4 potential problems in a moment of leading people for a long period of time. But what I want you to understand is that in any relationship, marriage, the church, I don't care what it is, the weakest person always controls that relationship. The strongest person can handle the pressure and handle the stress and can go the second mile and turn the other cheek and have the maturity. The weak person is the one that controls it. Now, there are 4 potential problems as a leader when you're trying to lead people for a long period of time. Here we go. Here are the potential problems with this weak person. Number 1, the leader stops leading because of the weaker one. How many times have we stopped the train and not kept going where we should be going because somebody wanted the train to be stopped and wanted the rest of the depot? Happens all the time. Number 2, the leader spends too much time with the weaker one. Log your time. Who are you spending it with? Number 3, the leader allows the weaker one too much influence. And 4, the leader takes responsibility for the weaker one. Now you put those 4 things together, and you're going to have some huge, major people limitations on taking people on a journey. Now, what is the secret? What is the secret to taking people with you and keeping them with you for a long period of time? The secret is in the area of bondedness. Until you and I emotionally bond with people, we will not be able to lead them for long, extended periods of time. Now, all I'm saying in people limitations is very simple. I cannot lead people longer than they're willing to follow, and the key word there is relationships. Number 2, I cannot lead people further than they're willing to go. And that deals with vision. How many times have we tried to take somebody to the top and they didn't want to go to the top? They wanted to put out the fire in the base camp. That's why I put the quote, dissatisfaction and discouragement are not caused by the absence of things, but the absence of vision. Here's what I have found in this area of vision casting and trying to get people further than they want to go. Here's what I found. It's in your notes. Complacent people drain energy out of others. So, that being true, and that being that we have complacent people within us, what do we do? Well, three very simple things, then I'll move on. One is keep telling the dream. Two, keep moving with or without them. And three, keep pointing to your victories. And that is so key. Nothing discourages a discouraging person more than victories that they didn't get to possess. And nothing encourages those who went with you more than looking down at the bottom of the valley where the others are. And they could have been there. Okay. Third limitation. Not only can I, number one, I cannot lead people longer than they're willing to follow, and I cannot lead people further than they're willing to go. Thirdly, I cannot lead people faster than they're willing to change. The key word there is growth. That deals with growth, because growth causes change. And, the question is, why don't people change? Because they're uncomfortable. The uncomfortableness of change is something we all have to understand. So therefore, I put in your notes this quote: if change doesn't cause you discomfort, it's not real change. See, one of the things I hear all the time in this area of change is I hear leaders trying to make their people comfortable with change. And they'll say things, oh, it's no problem. Well, it is a problem. Or it's going to work out right. Well, it isn't going to work out right. I hear leaders all the time. They'll work with people and they'll say, they're taking their group through change. And they'll just kind of poo-poo it. They'll just kind of say, it's no big deal. It's no problem. Don't worry about it. It's not an issue. It's going to be all right. And they try to psych people through change instead of let people emote through change. People don't like change. And the quicker you emote, the quicker you relate. And the quicker you relate and emote, the quicker you get through the change issue. And so therefore, in leading people, when you say, well, it's causing us discomfort, that's the whole point. It's supposed to cause discomfort. If you're not having discomfort in change, you're not having real change. Number four, there's one more limitation about people. Now, let's just think about the first three. I cannot lead people longer than they're willing to follow. I can't lead people further than they're willing to go. I cannot lead people faster than they're willing to change. And four, I cannot lead people higher than they're able to climb. And that deals with potential. So I put a little quote in there of mine: leaders match the man with the mountain. Now, let me tell you, I've written them in there for you to know them forever. My three weaknesses. I have more than that. Those are just three in this area. I have hundreds if you have time. You have a 2 or 3 week deal that you could spend with me. I have three weaknesses in this area. Number one, believing people can do more than they're capable of doing. Number two, believing people can do it quicker than they're capable of doing it. It's a major weakness. In fact, my wife, Margaret, is very quick too. Can you imagine the pressure we put on our kids? I mean, she skipped school. She got out of high school when she was 16, was teaching school when she was 19, out of college, and I mean, you got two high energy, high quick thinking people. Our kids should have divorced us when they're about 4. I mean, it's just, but that's a weakness of mine. And my third weakness is believing people can want to do more than they are capable of doing. In other words, what I do is I try to take people beyond their comfort zone, and I always have. And when I say it's a weakness, let me tell you, it's many of our weaknesses are our strengths. It's a strength and it's a weakness. It's a strength in the fact that I've raised many people higher than they would have ever gone if I wouldn't have been beside them. That's the truth. The weakness is that there are many times I have tried to get people to go to levels and do things that they really probably should not have done, and I have taken them way beyond where they should go. Now, here's what I've learned. Very simple. Here's what I've learned. Number one, and this is so simple, you all say, well, I already know that. Good. Number one, all people cannot climb to the same level. Number two, all people can climb higher than their present level. Number 3, and this is so key in leadership, a leader evaluates the person's potential. Your ability to size up people and figure out realistically what their potential is invaluable gift to you as a leader. Number 4, a leader places each person in a position for success. In other words, when you discover a person's potential, then put them in an arena where they will thrive and do well. Back to my quote, match the men with the mountains, match the women with the mountains. Put them on a mountain that they can climb and achieve. And number 5, once success is realized, a leader encourages that person to step up to a higher level. You put some success under the belt, and then you encourage them to go to a higher level.
So the second part of it, there's a part 2, and we can listen to that another time, or you could grab that on your own. Let me see if I could stop sharing my screen. Or did I? Am I sharing my screen? Okay, good. So let's talk about this just for a little bit before we move into working, because what I want to do is really impress upon you something that I think is more valuable than any other lesson. I think Kristen Boss right now is kind of leaning in this direction as well. It is so tempting to teach people the power of 3, how to share a cart, what are the ingredients in the slim, add, tag, message. And we start to think we've done our job if we've given them all of the skills. And then maybe if we can get them on a Monday night motivation call with Plexus, or let's get them to convention, all of those are great things. But we have probably all experienced doing those things and people still leaving, maybe not sticking with it. Maybe it just wasn't for them. So what is this missing key element? And I believe it is creating other leaders, because when I teach someone to share a cart, if the person doesn't ever order that they share the cart with, don't I want them to have the leadership skills to believe all of the things about that allow them to keep their head held high, keep them moving forward, staying in that positive space? I don't want them to be defeated. I want them to be able to handle when hard things come, and maybe people on their team are having a difficult time relating with each other, or maybe somebody feels like they're never going to get to the top. They're never going to be able to make achievements. How is it they're going to be able to coach that person if they don't grow in their leadership skills? So I think leadership, just like John Maxwell says, it all rises and falls there. Sarah, did you want to share anything before I just open it up?
First thing, just a reminder that 10 to 15 minutes of any kind of listening to something can be so ridiculously helpful. I'm guilty of just life getting super busy. And when I take the 10 or 15 minutes to feed my brain, it just puts you back on track. So thank you for that. I go back and forth. I've been listening to Brittany Howard's podcast, and trying to get out and walk for at least 20 minutes every day. And that's just been super, super helpful. So thank you for that reminder. I'm also like a worksheet person. It's so helpful.
The best.
And I think also the sooner the better, that wrapping your brain around, we are all leaders. And you might be on this call and thinking to yourself, well, I've only got 4 people on my team. I'm not a leader yet. That is not true. And I tell my boys all of the time, learning to lead yourself well is step 1. And then getting into that practice. I mean, I was emerald before I really realized, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Who are these people? I have no clue how to lead. I don't know what leadership is. I just kind of, stumbled forward, and we were just on this huge momentum trajectory. And at Emerald is when I had to say, what am I doing? And that's when I started reading books and all of that. So I just love that you have pulled this. You just showed us that in 12 minutes, we can be given such amazing information that can truly help. The biggest thing for me that literally just jumped out when it said, you just keep going, keep leading, keep moving, keep going with or without them. And keep showing that you can do that. So good stuff.
Yeah. And anytime you can fill in the blank, I don't know what it is about the human brain, I'm like, this is good. This is serious stuff. So does anyone feel like they have a leadership lesson or something that they've grown in, or when was the moment that you realized, okay, leadership is where I need to be focusing? Like, does anybody have anything they'd be willing to share? Go ahead. Don't be afraid to lead the group and tell us about it.
I'll start really quick, just so you guys know. I think all of us have strengths and weaknesses, and I love that John Maxwell put his down. One of my biggest weaknesses as a Enneagram 2 and a yellow is that I avoided conflict at all costs. And so a huge leadership growth lesson for me was to lean into conflict resolution. And I remember a very specific time where conflict made me physically ill. I would get nauseous, I would get shaky, I would get sweaty. The thought of trying to figure out how to resolve conflict as a leader paralyzed me. And so this was one of those things where I just decided to do the leadership work and found some amazing chapters and books on how to resolve conflict. And the more I practiced that with growth and change, right, the better I got at it. And when I reached a few critical points in my business where, we had some people leaving and some cross recruiting and some really challenging conflict, I literally leaned into it to the point of being excited to come to a speedy resolution, feeling armed and equipped as a leader to confidently navigate conflict. So that was my weakness that I learned and then transferred into a strength. And now it's just like, I still get nauseous, I still get sweaty, but now I'm like, let's plan the phone call, let's meet for coffee, let's do what we have to do to navigate through this conflict so that we can either go our separate ways or mend fences or whatever the case might be. So that was like critical for me, because the more people you lead, it's a people business. And if you don't know how to navigate hard relationships and difficult conversations, that is going to be a roadblock for you.
And let me just follow that up by saying some people might use this metric of my team's doing well because everyone gets along. We're all friends and it's just peaceful. That is not reality. Just think about if you've ever raised children, for crying out loud, or think about, have you ever been to marriage counseling? You come out stronger as a couple than you could ever have imagined, but that's because you dealt with some garbage, okay? So being able to have conflict, actually, to me, and being able to overcome that is showing that you guys are committed to the final mission, to the vision, and you're willing to go through all of the dirt and all of the hard to come out on the other side stronger. And you know what's funny, Sarah? I don't mind helping people through their conflict as long as it's not about me. If it's about me, I don't want to answer the phone. So anyhow, does anyone want to share a leadership lesson that they've had?
I do.
Oh, tell us.
Are you there? Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, so if I can put this in words accurately, I've been at this, my anniversary is coming up, 7 years, okay? I remain at gold, and I've been at gold for 7 years almost. And I've built a team, I've lost a team. I have a lot of stuff going on in my life, like everybody, right? And I realize with myself, and I don't know if this will help anybody else, but with myself, I can't lead other people. I finally have drawn my line in the sand until I can lead myself. Until I'm doing the right things, I can't lead anybody else. So, I'm a systems gal, and there's all these great systems, the boards, the, project broadcast, all that stuff. And so for me, I'm a perfectionist, which I need to let go of that. I realize that, but I still need to have systems in place to be able to move forward. So I don't know if anybody else listens to Motiversity. You guys know what that is? Have you ever heard of that? Okay. You got to go on motiversity.com. What it is, it's leaders like John Maxwell and all these other motivational speakers, and they compile like the best of for 2023, 2022, whatever. They also have like specific topics. If you put that on in the morning, they will literally, you can, like Sarah said, or you said 10 to 15 minutes, and it'll get your day going, because they basically say all of these good things that we hear in a very short clip period. And it's motivational. It's motiversity.com. So what they say in that a lot is that it's okay. One of the speakers says, it's okay to shut down and take 30 days. And he multiplies the hours, and he said, just think, I think it adds up to like 720 hours. Just think of what you can do for your own self-development and prepping for, going down under, and then you explode when you come out because you've prepared yourself. So I've literally, I mean, it's not that I'm not posting at all, but I keep in touch with my people, but I've gone underground because I know I need to prep myself to be a good leader. So, you know, I don't know if that helps anybody, but sometimes you just don't feel prepared yourself. And I've realized that I've never felt prepared, which is why I'm not moving the needle forward. So.
I mean, that's a very interesting point. There's a part in John Maxwell's 21 Laws of Leadership that's reminding me of that to a degree. I felt at the time that I was reading it, I was leading that book study. And I thought, man, like someone else should be leading this because like I'm learning with these people. But he said something and I really appreciated it. He said, people will follow you as long as they see that you're growing. And so it was okay for me to feel like I was telling them, I'm learning this with you. Like I want to be better. And so if you guys, even if you're that whole idea of learn while you earn, same idea for leadership, you're telling them I'm learning these skills because you want to serve them. So I just want to encourage you guys too, if you feel like you're learning as you're becoming a leader, that is okay. Does anyone else have anything they want to share before we get busy?
I can't undo my camera because I have a huge cold sore from being sick. So I'm just going to stay black and talk to you guys real quick.
Did I say thank
you? I just wanted to say, I wanted to speak to what Pamela said. I find that if I continue to take in all of the leadership points that I'm growing and I'm learning and I'm trying to do, and I don't create the action right alongside of it, that I will not ever grow. Just wanted to encourage you a little bit, Pamela, that it doesn't have to be perfect, that you should continue to show up as a leader because your people will see you showing up as a leader and continue to post and continue to do all the things, because that's how you're going to get where you want to be. It's okay to not know everything and to lead. That's all I wanted to say, because that's what I've learned. As soon as I stop, everybody else does.
That's such a powerful message, and it's just the truth of the matter. And one of the ways you can know if you're growing in your leadership, if you start to look down at your people that have said yes to you and they're going and doing leadership activity. I had to, okay, so when that happened with the girl in the very beginning with my Plexus journey, the one that was very influential, I was scared and I didn't know which direction I should go. And my gut said, this is over. Let's just quit. But my upline said to me, which you've probably heard this, she said, Jennifer, is that girl paying your mortgage? Now, I'd never heard someone ask me that before. I'd never even heard someone make a statement like that. And for me, that was powerful because money was so tight. That was like a smack in the face. And I thought, no, she's not. And I really do need this. Well, I used that same line on Alita. She joined. She was doing so great. I was willing to push her. She was scared. She was nervous, but I was able to navigate that with her. Then she hit gold and I made a gold announcement and the crazy woman deleted it. I said, why did you delete that? She goes, well, I don't want people to see that. Like, I'm not ready for that. I'm afraid. There was a particular lady. She was afraid of seeing it. I said, is that lady paying your mortgage? I just passed on the leadership lesson that was given to me to her. She said, no. I said, we're going to put it back up there. She's like, I'm scared. I said, good. We're going to learn to overcome it together. And so creating other leaders is such an important part of this, because if you don't, like I said before, if no one else is carrying the torch, you cannot. It's not possible for you to do it on your own. So leadership is truly the most important part of this, in my opinion. Does anybody else want to share before we move on? So don't let this be a time for you to beat yourself up or have any shame and say, I'm not a leader, nobody follows me. I don't believe that. I think that maybe you don't feel like in Plexus you have someone on your team following you, but I know you have leadership skills. Find that area of your life that you are leading well, whatever that looks like. And then figure out, why is it that I'm so successful in leadership in this area? Maybe it's on a topic you're really excited about. Maybe it's because you really are invested in the outcome. Maybe it's because the relationship with those people is so strong that you want them to experience success. Figure that out and then really start to capitalize on that. the place that you're already having success in, study it. And that way you can apply it to this. Maybe you think, how can I lead if I'm not even where I'm trying to take these people? Maybe your goal is wrong. Maybe you're making it about that carrot. You're like, my leadership is all dependent upon my points outcome, about whether I walk a stage at convention or not. And that may not be the case. It might actually be something totally different. Sometimes the people that join Plexus and they're making an income, they're happy for the income, but really what they needed is something to look forward to, something that made them brave, something that gave them a community. These are all valuable things that you're offering people. It doesn't have to just do with money and points. Remember, this is a lot bigger than that. So he said something in the podcast that we're going to focus on right now. And I loved it so much because I have the hardest time with discouraging people that are always like I always picture that face for some reason when they're in a chat and they want to say something. They're like, and I'm always like, well, that was special. Thanks for sharing that information. He said, nothing discourages a discouraging person more than you having a victory that they don't possess. Now, how do you get victories that they don't possess? You do the work. And so right now, if you have not already earned the Lululemon, or if you're close to it, or if you haven't even considered it, this is the time. How do you earn it? You sign up 3 new VIPs. How do you do that? Through your posting, your messaging, adding people to your wellness community and tagging them in posts that are relevant to them, going back to people that used to be with you in Plexus. I know Lisa did this before with the reset, circling back, getting them re-signed up if they're outside of that window of time. You need 3 people. When you experience that success, nothing will discourage a discouraging person more than you having that victory. So we're going to focus on getting our 3. If you have any type of suggestions or advice or anything that's working for you, put it in the chat. And here we go. Okay, we're wrapping it up. I did just put in the chat, if anybody wants to help lead Thursday's Power Hour, I'll be on. I just feel like it's a good thing for people to get into practice of. Of course, we do the winning day. You can always share your story. You could share anything that's working for you. If you're willing to do it, message me. I did say Lisa, ? Karen, ? So if anybody does want to do it, let me know. Otherwise, she said maybe. We can always do it a Thursday in the future as well. So you guys have a good rest of your day, and then I will see you on Thursday, and let me know if you're willing to do it. I'll keep saying that over and over again. If anybody's willing, that'd be awesome. See you then.